The first time I noticed something was wrong. My daughter stopped calling me mom. It wasn't dramatic.
No shouting. No arguments.
Just distance. And the worst part? It started right after I got married again. At first, I told myself I was imagining things. But then one evening, I saw the way my husband looked at her, and I realized something in my own house was very, very wrong. Before we begin this intriguing story, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video, so you don't miss more powerful and emotional life stories like this one. Enjoy the story. My name is Elena. I'm 52 years old, and 3 years ago, I thought I finally found happiness again. After my first husband passed away, I spent almost 10 years alone. It wasn't loneliness that scared me. It was silence. A house that used to feel full suddenly felt too big.
Too quiet.
Too empty. Then I met Daniel. He was calm, attentive, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. And after everything I had been through, that felt safe. My daughter, Lisa, was 19 at the time. Smart, independent, a little distant, but that's normal at that age. When I introduced them, everything seemed fine. Too fine. That's something I only understood later. At first, Lisa was polite. She smiled,
Talk to him.
even laughed at his jokes. But something about her smile felt forced. I ignored it because I wanted this to work. I wanted us to be a family again. 6 months later, we got married. That's when things started to change. Slowly, quietly, Lisa began spending more time in her room. She stopped joining us for dinner, stopped talking as much. One night, I knocked on her door. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm just tired," she said. But she didn't look tired. She looked tense, like she was holding something in. I asked if something was wrong. She shook her head.
No.
But she didn't look at me when she said it. That was the first time I felt it. That quiet, uncomfortable feeling in my chest. Like something wasn't right, but I couldn't prove it. A few days later, I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard voices. From the kitchen, I recognized Daniel's voice.
Calm. Soft.
Then Lisa's.
Short.
Cold. I said I don't need help, she snapped. "I'm just trying to be nice," he replied. There was a pause. Then she said something that made me stop in the hallway. "Just stay away from me." Silence. I stepped into the kitchen. They both turned. Too quickly. Daniel smiled. Lisa didn't. "What's going on?" I asked. "Nothing," Daniel said immediately. Lisa grabbed her phone. "I'm going out." She walked past me without another word. I looked at Daniel. What was that about?
He sighed.
"She's just going through a phase." Maybe. That's what I told myself. That's what I wanted to believe. But that night, I couldn't sleep because I kept thinking about one thing. The way she said it. Stay away from me. Not annoyed. Not dramatic. But serious. Like a warning. And a few days later, I found something in Lisa's room that made my blood run cold. That night, I didn't plan to go into Lisa's room. I'm not that kind of mother. I always respected her space. But something inside me wouldn't let it go. That feeling, heavy, persistent, uncomfortable, like a quiet voice repeating the same thing over and over again. Something is wrong. The next morning, Lisa left early for college. Daniel had already gone to work. The house was empty, silent. I stood in the hallway outside her room for a long moment, just standing there, listening to nothing. Then I opened the door. Slowly. Her room looked normal. Too normal. Bed made. Desk clean. Everything in its place. But the air felt different. Tense. Like something had happened there. I walked in, closed the door behind me. At first, I didn't know what I was even looking for. I checked her desk. Books. Notebook. Nothing unusual. Then the drawer. Receipts. Pens. Nothing. I almost stopped. Almost convinced myself I was overreacting. Until I saw her backpack. It was on the chair, half open, like she left in a hurry. I reached for it, hesitated for a second, then opened it. Inside, books, her laptop, and a small folded piece of paper, tucked deep inside, like it wasn't meant to be found. My hands felt cold as I unfolded it. The handwriting was hers, messy,
Rushed.
I read the first line, and everything inside me dropped. If something happens to me, it's not an accident. My heart started pounding.
Loud.
Too loud. I read the rest. I don't trust him. Mom won't believe me. He keeps coming into my room when she's not home. I stopped breathing. For a moment, I couldn't move.
Couldn't think.
Couldn't even understand what I was reading. Then I forced myself to continue. He says he's just checking if I'm okay, but he stands too close. And he doesn't leave right away. My hands were shaking now. The paper slipped slightly between my fingers. This wasn't confusion anymore. This wasn't imagination. This was fear.
Her fear.
And I hadn't seen it. I folded the paper slowly, put it back exactly where I found it, like touching it too much would make it real in a way I couldn't handle. Then I sat on her bed, staring at nothing, trying to understand one thing. How long had this been happening? And more importantly, why didn't she tell me? Then the answer hit me immediately. It was right there in her note. Mom won't believe me. That hurt more than anything else. Not the words, not even the fear, but the fact that my own daughter thought I would choose him over her. I stood up, my hands clenched.
No.
Not anymore. I grabbed my phone, dialed Daniel. He answered on the second ring. Hey, he said casually. Everything okay? His voice.
Calm.
Normal, like nothing was wrong.
I forced myself to sound the same.
Yes, I said. Actually, I wanted to ask you something. Sure. Can you come home early today? A pause. Why? I looked around Lisa's room, at her desk,
Her bed. Her door.
Just something I need to talk to you about. Another pause. Longer this time. Then, okay. He hung up. I lowered the phone slowly, and in that moment, I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him immediately. I wasn't going to scream, or accuse, or warn him.
No.
If what Lisa wrote was true, then he had already been careful, which meant I had to be smarter. That evening, I prepared everything. I set my phone up in the living room, camera on,
Hidden. Pointed toward the hallway.
toward Lisa's door. I told myself it was just in case, just to be sure, just to confirm. But deep down, I already knew. When Daniel came home, he kissed me on the cheek like always, smiled, asked about my day, and for the first time, I saw it, the difference, the way his eyes moved, the way he looked past me, toward the hallway, toward her room. Dinner was quiet. Lisa barely spoke. Daniel tried to joke. She didn't react. At one point, his hand brushed her shoulder as he passed behind her. She flinched, not slightly, not subtly. She pulled away immediately. My chest tightened, but I stayed silent.
Watched.
Waited. That night, I pretended to go to bed early,
Closed my door.
turned off the lights, and waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. The house was quiet until I heard footsteps.
Slow.
Careful, not going to the kitchen, not to the bathroom, to the hallway. My heart started racing. I got up silently, moved toward my door, opened it just enough to see, and then I saw him, standing in front of Lisa's door, not knocking, just standing there, like he was deciding something, like he had done this before. Then he slowly reached for the handle, and that was the moment I understood. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't being nice. This was something else, something much darker. I stepped out into the hallway and said one word, Daniel.
He froze.
His hand still on the door handle. Slowly, he turned around, And the look on his face was not surprise. It was something much worse. For a second, no one moved. Daniel stood there, his hand still on the door handle, me just a few steps away. The hallway suddenly felt too small, too tight, like the air itself was watching us. Daniel. This time my voice was firmer, sharper. What are you doing? He didn't answer immediately. That was the first thing that told me everything. Because an innocent person answers right away. Instead, he slowly removed his hand from the handle,
Turned toward me.
and smiled. That same calm smile, the one I used to trust. I heard something, he said casually, from her room. I stared at him. No, you didn't. A pause. His smile didn't disappear, but it changed, just slightly. Less warm, more controlled. You're overreacting, he said. That sentence. That exact sentence. It hit me like something I had read before. I stepped closer. No, I said quietly. I'm finally reacting. The silence stretched between us. Then, a soft sound behind the door.
Lisa.
She was awake. Of course she was. How many nights had she listened to this? How many times had he stood there like this, when I wasn't home, my hands clenched, step away from the door? He didn't move. Instead, he looked at me differently now, like he was measuring something, like he was deciding how far he could go. Elena, he said softly, you're making this into something it's not. That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not violently, but completely. I read her note. Silence. Real silence this time. His face changed. Not panic, not shock, just calculation. That doesn't mean anything, he said. I felt cold. She wrote that you come into her room. I check on her. She said you don't leave. She's exaggerating. She said she's afraid of you. That was the first time his expression hardened. Just for a second. Then it was gone again. She's confused, he said.
No.
I shook my head slowly. She's not. Another silence. Then I said the words that changed everything. I've been recording. That did it. His eyes flicked, just for a fraction of a second, toward the living room, toward the hidden phone. And that was enough. Because guilty people always check. Always. The mask slipped. Not completely, but enough. Turn it off, he said quietly. I felt my heart pounding.
No.
Elena, listen to me.
No. My voice was louder now.
Stronger. For the first time you listened to me. Behind the door, I heard movement. Lisa again. She was closer now. Right on the other side. He noticed it too. And something in him shifted. Not fear. Not regret. Something darker. More desperate. You don't understand what you're doing, he said. I stepped between him and the door.
Ido.
Another pause. Then he leaned slightly closer. His voice lower now. You're going to destroy everything. I looked straight into his eyes. You already tried. That's when Lisa opened the door. Slowly. Carefully. She stood behind me. I could feel her presence. Her fear. But also something else. Relief. Mom, she whispered. I didn't turn around. I'm here. Daniel looked at her, and for the first time, there was no pretending.
No softness. No kindness.
Just irritation. Like she was a problem he couldn't control anymore. You shouldn't be listening to this, he said coldly. Lisa didn't answer. She just stepped closer to me. That small movement said everything. I felt something shift inside my chest. A decision. Final. Irreversible. You need to leave, I said. Daniel blinked. What?
Now.
He laughed slightly. You're serious? Yes. You're throwing me out based on a note and your imagination?
No.
I shook my head. I'm throwing you out because of what I saw. Another pause. He looked at me, then at Lisa, then back at me, and in that moment, he understood something. He had lost control. Completely. The calm disappeared. The mask dropped. You'll regret this, he said quietly. Maybe, but not for the reason he thought. Leave. He stood there for a second longer, then turned, walked past me, down the hallway,
To the door.
the sound of it opening, then closing, echoed through the house. Silence. Heavy. Real. I stood there, not moving, until I felt her.
Lisa.
Her hand gripping my sleeve,
Tightly.
like she was afraid I would disappear. Slowly, I turned to her, and for the first time in weeks,
She looked at me.
not distant, not cold, just like my daughter again. I'm sorry, she whispered. That broke me. Not loudly, not dramatically.
But deeply.
I pulled her into my arms. It's not your fault. We stood there for a long moment, in the hallway, where everything had just changed. But the truth was, this wasn't the end, because the next morning, someone knocked on our door, and what they said made me realize this situation was even bigger than I thought. The next morning, the knock on the door came early.
Too early.
I hadn't slept. Neither had Lisa. We stayed in the living room most of the night.
Lights on.
TV off. Just silence. Every zvuk kazался громче обычного. Every thought тяжелее. When the knock came again, louder this time, Lisa looked at me. Fear flashed in her eyes. He came back, she whispered.
My serce жалось.
But I already knew.
No.
Daniel wouldn't come back like that. Not after last night. I walked to the door slowly. Every step felt heavy. Careful. Controlled. I opened it and froze. Two people stood outside. A man and a woman. Serious. Professional.
Good morning, the man said.
My name is Officer Grant. My stomach dropped. May we come in? For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then I stepped aside. Yes, of course.
They walked in.
Looked around briefly. Noticed Lisa in the living room. The woman smiled gently at her, then turned back to me. We need to ask you a few questions about Daniel. My chest tightened. What about him? They exchanged a look. Then the officer spoke. He was reported last night. I felt cold. By who? The officer paused. By you. I frowned. I didn't call. Then I stopped. The camera. The recording. My breath caught. You submitted footage through an automated safety system. I blinked.
What?
The woman explained calmly. Some devices automatically send flagged footage if certain behaviors are detected. My mind raced. The phone. The recording. The moment in the hallway. My hands started to tremble. What did you see? I asked quietly. The officer didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked toward Lisa, then back at me, enough to open an investigation. Silence filled the room.
Heavy. Real.
Lisa slowly stood up, stepped closer, and this time, she didn't hide behind me. She stood next to me. The woman officer spoke softly to her. Would you like to tell us anything? Lisa hesitated. I felt her ukaratum, not shaking anymore, just steady. Then she nodded. Yes. Her voice was quiet, but clear. And in that moment, I realized something. She wasn't afraid anymore. Not like before. Because now, she wasn't alone. The officer spoke with her for a while.
Gently. Carefully.
No pressure.
No rules.
And I stood there, listening. Every word felt like a piece of truth finally coming together. Things I didn't see. Moments I missed. Signs I ignored. And with each one, the picture became clearer.
Darker.
But clearer. After some time, the officers finished. The man turned to me. We'll be in contact, he said. I nodded slowly. Thank you. They left. The door closed. And the house fell silent again. But this time, it felt different. Not empty. Just quiet. Safe. I turned to Lisa. She looked at me. And for the first time in a long time, there was no distance between us.
No walls.
No fear. Just trust. I thought you wouldn't believe me, she said softly. That sentence hurt more than anything else in the story. I stepped closer. took her hands. I almost didn't, I admitted. Her eyes widened slightly. But I chose you. Silence. Then she hugged me,
Tightly.
like she used to when she was little. And I held her the same way. Because some things
Don't change.
no matter how much time passes. Later that day, I sat alone in the kitchen, the same place where I once believed I had rebuilt my life, where I thought I had found peace again. And I realized something important. Not everything that feels safe actually is. And not every danger looks obvious. Sometimes it smiles. It speaks softly. It earns your trust. And then it waits. But the real mistake is ignoring that quiet feeling inside you. That voice that says, something is wrong. Because when it comes to the people you love, you don't need proof first. You need courage. And that day, I finally found mine.